Okay, in today's video I have this Pioneer cassette player with fluorescent display, model CT-300, and it's a bit of an unknown condition, this one. Supposedly something faulty with it, so I guess I'll power this up and test this thing, see what it actually does. And it does come with a free tape. Got rewind, fast forward. So it mechanically seem to be running. What do we got? Sing along. What the hell? Sing along. Max Bygraves. Something Xmas. Don't know. Max Bygraves. Though I don't think we want to hear that. And it's actually an Astor tape, which is quite rare. I mean, Philips took over Astor, and there was a few of their records around long before Philips took them over. Didn't really realise they got into the cassette era, but for some reason Philips never used the brand name on electronic goods, even though I think Astor were one of the bigger manufacturers of radio and television in Australia. So that's an interesting brand. But that's sort of running, and we've got level meters, both channels. So we don't seem to be lacking audio. This deck actually has leads attached to it. Yeah, someone's like marked it with P and X movies, so you know which one. We've actually got a label here as well, which helps. Play and record are labelled. Plugs have seen better days. I almost want replacing, I think. Some sort of corrosion or old tape glue or something on them. Might clean up with a bit of work. Let's plug that into the amp.
Next year all our troubles will be.
Well, I warned you. Oh god, not that. Well, I think I'll have to chuck that in the fire later on. But we've got playback. Heads are nice and clean. Everything looks good there. So far the mechanical seems to be alright. I guess we can just check the Dolby and stuff. Switches aren't playing up. Oh, I hate that song. That seems alright, so the only other thing we can check is the actual record on this thing. Let's get that hooked up. And this is a full logic control deck, so probably it's quite thin. It's not much wider than the cassette door, because we can fit all the buttons over on the panel here. Although I think I did look at a Technics or something, had a strange setup with side mounted buttons. I assume we're going to have to press play and record. So we've got a bit of that track there, but not much, so we're definitely got a record issue here. Just a bit of distorted sound there in the background, and hasn't erased the original recording. So it's either a signal issue or, well, it's more likely a bias oscillator or race oscillator issue when it's something like that. Because if you've just got no recording sound but it erases, then you've got a signal issue. But if you're not getting a race either, then it's actually a race oscillator, which also feeds the bias in and makes the recording part work better as well. So I guess we'll take the top off this thing and have a look. Looks like quite a nicely built unit. So we've got at least one Dolby chip here. Not sure what that is. Hitachi chips. A couple more Hitachi chips. And a BA843, so that might be the motor driver and stuff. Well, I guess we've got a couple of solenoids as well, so that probably drives all that for the logic control part. A couple of record level pots, Dolby adjustment, playback level, and I assume another one. That looks like your head wires. That's probably a read relay, another Hitachi part by the look of it. That does our record playback switching, since this doesn't have any mechanical lever to go back to a record playback switch. And that, I'm guessing, is the erase head coming across there. That's our bias oscillator part. Oh, it actually says bias adjustment. Oh, you've got one for each channel, left and right. So that's going to be where our problem is. Now that's quite big. Normally they're like an IF can sort of thing, and that's quite a big one. So some of these I think had like electronics inside them. It's got some sort of transistor next to it there. I think the oscillators often had two transistors or more, so that could be an actual module. So I'll have to get the bottom off this thing and poke around. I can probably check a few things with a multimeter. And of course we've got this power transformer here, which is rather dangerous. So going to have to be a bit careful, as well as this voltage select on the back. All this stuff should be fairly safe, but that side of the thing's a bit dangerous, and you've got to remember, if you have this upside down and you put your hands underneath these sides, bad things can happen. Let's have a look. Yeah, it does actually have a removable bottom. They don't all. That's a bit better than the usual setup. Yeah, nothing there. That was quite a good design, nice and easy to work on. So I was up the back here, I think I can see it already. That looks like a can there, and something that could be the transistor. Yeah, that's the area. And you know, there it is, 36 maybe. Yeah, that's our erase head connection. Depending if this, normally this would just be a coil, so just be simple to measure across the pins. And that seems to be open. So that's ground, would be these two pins, and there's a terminal connected to it. Where do these go? That goes to the erase head. By the look of it, you're going to get a short across that anyway. Where does the other side of the erase head goes to ground, so that pin is definitely going to measure to ground. If the erase head's good, which it is, pretty unlikely. I don't think I've ever seen an erase head fail. Doesn't mean they can't. What are those two things? There's something in the middle there. Okay, it's a couple of little caps that probably go into the bias pots. So that's a cap. Little ceramic caps. That's the trim pot, I think. So that's a separate output. One output to the erase head, one to the bias. Probably a much lower level, because the erase head needs a bit of power to do its job and actually erase magnetic tape. So let's see. We put this thing in a record. What do we actually get here in voltage? Hopefully well, that'll be the earth. The chassis is probably earth as well. Let's see what this transistor has. Nothing. Oh, that's actually earth. We got 0.8 volts there, so that'll be the base, so that should be turned on. And about 0.1 volts there by the look of it. That goes to one side of this. And let's see what the other side is. 12.6 volts. Not sure what we connected to here, but I assume that would be a power rail. Either way, the oscillator needs it, but that's, so that goes through what doesn't measure as a good coil to that transistor, which shorts to ground. So more than likely this is an electronic module. We've got 12 volts in. When we hit record, let's stop record. I'm betting that voltage on that transistor's gone, because that probably just turns the oscillator on and off. I want to put it grounded properly, I guess. 0.8 volts was there. Yeah, the base, nothing. So it looks like when you hit record, it probably turns this transistor on, which shorts to ground, which is how they apply power. You've got 12 volts permanently there. That earths the oscillator out to start it. And what was I measuring there again? I've completely forgotten. Up in the mega ohms range. So it's definitely, if that was a coil, it'd be open circuit, but it's not. So I think all we can really do is take this module out. And have a look what we've got. Either way, it's bound to be in this thing. Whether it's meant to be a coil or not, but I'd say more likely electronic module. I mean, I think some of them just, they put the whole oscillator circuit into the metal can as a form of shielding, rather than having usually just had a little oscillator IF type can with a coil in it. No more pins than an IF, I think, and whatever feeding into it was just on the normal circuit board, so probably radiated a bit of interference into the tape deck potentially. Yeah, I think that probably is some sort of module. And what have we got? Little side bits pressed in. Might have to just bend those out a bit and see if we can get this. I think it's coming. Get the bottom out. I've got some sort of insulator. Yeah, if it comes off. Yeah, and that's a definite circuit board in there. That little way under that hole, it's actually got a square hole for the adjuster. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think, pins on that coil. And there'll probably be, there's a few pins there, could be a transistor, and maybe a few capacitors and things. Gets a bit riskier here because it's usually a very thin circuit board. So yeah, I can see it through the hole there. You got to be careful, they're pretty fragile, so there's still a metal bit sort of holding it. Let's see if I can bend the outer case out a bit. Yeah, like that, that might do it. And then it's a matter of trying to carefully, it's coming sort of, carefully prising this upwards. There's a couple of little holes in the corner which makes it easier, but you may be pressing on components on the other side, so just be a bit careful, at least I'm not near the coil. It's got fiddly little things, but they're usually jammed in pretty tight. Just matter of gently working it up. It's nearly there, that should come out. Oh, what have I got here? Comes complete with paperwork, but look at that, that's probably just to insulate everything, I guess, inside that metal case. Yeah, 2 transistors. I can see 3 green caps. A couple of resistors. So let's just have a quick look. That's our primary side. I think that was a 12 volt in. That connects to the coil by the look of it. That pin, that pin. So the coil's good to, that's a transistor there. So that's probably a collector of a transistor. Oh, we're on, one end should be the base. Yeah, that measure's probably good. And our other transistor, oh, it's a bit of paper wrapped around it, is those 3 pins there must be. Both NPN by the look of it. So that's connected to another bit of the coil, which is connected to what? Not very well to there. Oh, to that pin, probably the rest of them, I guess. Not that one, not that one. That was connected to the B+. Oh, that's the emitter of that transistor. I think first transistor goes to there. Yeah, to that other winding. And now this output, well, that's connected to that. Oh, they are definitely connected. Oh, they're all three are connected together. Are they connected to that transistor? Must be connected to one, I would think. Yeah. Oh no, actually, now the output will be, this is probably isolated. So they're connected to each other. Well, it won't be connected to those two. It's connected to that. So I'm not sure, it might be like a push-pull circuit. I don't know if it look possibly two windings, but it looks like there's, I'd say the coil's intact. Definitely got the output windings, so that is an open circuit. Looks like there's an input through the transistor, and there's another set of things that I think are separate again. But that, the emitter of the first transistor, yeah, goes through a coil into the other one. So I'd say that's all connected up alright. But it could be some other issue here, so I'll probably have to check all the components on this module. So there's a closer up look at this thing. I think we'll just pull that off that transistor so it went near the... So it's quite possible one of these transistors might have died from being in here too long in the heat. It doesn't look like it's been particularly heat stressed or hot or used much, but they do tend to run hot in these little cases. If I check that resistor, I know that resistor should be intact because we're measuring between there before. Let's just do a quick check of these transistors. We have 0.6, so a junction. We do have something across there, but that could be any external components or anything. So possibly leaky or something, but it's most likely external components. And that one I think we already checked. I was at the base there. So chances are they're good. Could we have a dodgy capacitor in here? We certainly could. There's a 10k resistor as well, which I think is across there. And yeah, straight up to 10k. Very unlikely to be faulty, but you do occasionally get these sort of caps go open circuit. Or it could be part of this coil, but we seem to be measuring the coil pretty much like I would expect it to. So maybe there's something else I'm missing here, or maybe we've got a dodgy cap. Not finding anything much. Ooh, 619.1 ohm. That wasn't what I was expecting. I know, I'm pretty sure I've had these orange caps play up before, but could be wrong. Let's put it where I won't spin around everywhere. Oh yeah, 740 ohms. So I don't think a capacitor should measure 740 ohms. So it might have been a lucky guess, but just looking at it, it looks like a dodgy one to me. Sure, I've had these things before. So is it a 392, I think? Yes, that's a 392. I don't know if these orange ones were something special or what. Maybe higher stability, lower tolerance or something. Okay, let's test this one. Or 4128, so that's probably within specs, since it's a 39 or 3900 picofarad. But at least it measures as a cap. I'm not sure, like I say, I get a feeling those other ones are something special about them. So I might have to look in the menu on that if it is available. But they were known for failing occasionally, I think. But certainly that orange cap got my attention for for some reason, and that's usually what it is because you've had one somewhere before. There we go. Come on. Solder looks a bit cracked around that pin. I think the rest of that one's maybe a little cracked. Maybe I should resolder all those pins to the board. Hopefully they don't move on me. Doesn't have to go over that sort of thing while you're in it. Yeah, that middle one I think I missed. So that went, which transistor did it go over? That one must be, don't think it really matters. I think we'll put this thing back together because chances are we've fixed it. Either way you risk wasting a bit of time not putting it back together, soldering it in, testing it, find out it's alright, or putting it back together and having to pull it to bits again. There we go. Yeah, I should really bend the bits I bent out back in a bit. Don't think that side's fully down. Yeah, that should have it. Where are we? Up back in there. Just push it home, make sure it's sitting flat. Probably doesn't matter that much, but still. Okay, let's try again. And there we have it, it's a worker. Yeah, I think we fixed it. So it was that little, God knows what capacitor number, but that little 3900 picofarad that was shot, or was it 3.9 nanofarad I think, and that's all it was. And yeah, it's interesting in my brain, as soon as I saw that orange cap I was thinking that was the one to go for first. So like I say, probably come across one before and something like that. I've certainly fixed one or two of these over the years. I wouldn't have thought more than that, but it's amazing I can actually remember something like that. But like I say, sort of thing, once you see one, you tend to remember these things often because you spend a bit longer the first time finding it. The rest of the soldering in here looks pretty good. Don't think we've got any bad solder joints or anything we need to deal with. But that was a nice simple sort of repair, so good to see we're getting the odd electronic fault finally. Ah, that's what holds the front. I was going to say it should be another screw there somewhere, but it slides under a little piece there. So I guess it's really a matter of whether I bother putting new belts in this thing. I actually wouldn't mind keeping it as just a display. Guess I should clean this front panel up, see what it actually comes up like. Now I managed to get it a bit cleaner than it was. Still a couple of marks, needs a bit more of a clean. So not ideal. I don't want to plug that. What do we got to do to change the belts in this thing? Can we just possibly take the motor out? I assume that comes off. The only thing is to change the counter belt. Can you take the aluminium off? On this one I think the counter belt's probably the worst one. Does that just unclip? Yeah, that just comes out hopefully. Yep. Oh well, the counter belt's easy as to change. We do have an idler tyre in there. That looks a lot like that other Pioneer I fixed. There's a similar slim sort of silver deck to this, I think. Similar age too. So those idlers probably fail. They may be the same as in other decks. Does that? Yeah, that comes off as well. Oh, that needs a good dust out, not surprisingly with this one. So that's a great design. It's nice when you can get that little metal piece out. Bit of dust in there. Capstoning, at least it's clean where it matters. It's got a fairly clean capstan and everything. A little bit of dust on the reels. Oh, these are braked. So we've got to lift part of the mech up. Now that's on the idler still. How do I disconnect that? Oh, I don't think I can. How we disconnect the idler there maybe. And now with the brake back in place. Oh yeah, that little noisy. So they do have plastic washers on there that can be removed. You could probably do them without pulling the whole mech apart. I might have a look at that in a minute. And it looks like we can just take this. I don't know if we even need to take this plate off, but what does it actually undo is the next question. Does anything fall to bits? It shouldn't do it, I think. I guess in theory, or I might just take it so I can actually see what I'm doing a bit better, because otherwise it's definitely not going to be on camera, I don't think, because I have to tilt this thing up a lot more. But I don't know that you actually have to take that off. Doesn't really do much anyway. But we've got two screws on the motor plate here that I can see. And of course make sure you unplugged it, because you've got live wiring. Basically a power cord goes through the power switch and back onto probably these terminals here. It'd have to be those, they're the secondary, so they're alright, but that's live wiring there, so make sure you've disconnected the thing, because you're going to be putting your hands potentially right there, depending on the length of the screwdriver. I don't think they make too many stubby, so they do make shorter screwdrivers just because they're smaller than that one. Can we just, yeah, we're going to slide this out by the look of it. Well, that belt comes off anyway, you don't need to do anything really to get that out. That's the idler belt. And what are we catching on here? This slow eject mechanism by the look of it. Well, probably enough out anyway that we can drop the flat belt. I've managed to jiggle it out. Drop that to one side, that's dropped down around the capstan. Massive big capstan in this thing. Running beautifully. That can probably just about be slid out now. I think you might have to take the mech out to get that out. You might be able to slide it back and drop a bit of oil in there if it needed a bit of oil, or you could put oil on the other side, slide it back and forwards, and then wipe obviously all the oil off that's on the area where the tape's going to go. So that's our belts. That's pretty close to a 34. What's the next size? Have a look at the next size. I've got 37. Well, since this isn't stretched, we can probably go a 37 by 1.2, same as a tension. Oh, I'll leave that in the bag. That's much longer, that's more like 100 or something. Let's get rid of that one. Oh, they do make a 35 as well. Oh, there you go. That is about the same size, I think. Which is a 66. 1.2 is a bit bigger than the original. It should fit in there. 63 is the next size down. I think that's going to be too small. Yeah, 63. So that's a 66. And we're going to need, if that's a 66, that's probably almost the same size again, but flat. Yeah, it looks like a 66 diameter as well. Sometimes engineers like to use the same measurements. It's only a very thin one, so it's about a 3mm wide, I guess. Though, given the pulley and stuff in this, you could go a 4 or 5mm, probably no problem. Find an eBay one, because I don't have that size anymore. Yeah, that just fits inside it, so that's a good one. That's probably a little wider, ever so slightly, maybe a millimetre. So I'll just give this pulley a bit of a clean. It's got a bit of black belt on there. Someone did replace the belt, they didn't bother cleaning this probably. That's better. Oh, still a little bit there. Oh, and that down in the V there. Get off there. Get that clean. I don't know if we can really clean the capstan, but why not? So we need to get a flat belt in over that capstan and preferably held in place so it doesn't drop down in any grease or anything. Come on, there we go. Jiggle this thing roughly back into place. Where's that? That slots in there. I'll use a hook again. Probably need to go the other way, don't I? Can be a bit of a fiddly job, I think. That's twisted. If we lift that motor up, yeah, can hook that onto the pulley there. Let's just try and get that. Is it going to come off? Try and get it centered a bit. Although the motor's in the wrong position, so it doesn't really help, but that's better. And we want the little idler belt. I think we can have the motor in place. We can just drop that down and twist it a bit to lift it up onto that little groove on the end of the pulley, and then we can put it around this bit. If I can get it in the slot like so, and we can put our screws back in there. So that's a nice example of an easy to change set of belts. If only they made them all that simple. I must admit, this is surprisingly simple for a logic controlled deck. Usually they always seem to be, they're usually quite complicated things, but probably because most of them have auto reverse and everything. So this is just a logic controlled normal single direction tape deck, but it shows how simple they could design them when they wanted to. Put those wires back in place, and we've got to put that plate back on there, because we're finishing this bit. And now it's the counterbelt's turn, although I might see if I can focus for starters. I might see if we can just flip these little clips off. Okay, I might just see if we can get these little clips, and you've got to be super careful these don't go flying, but they've got a little split in them. I think that screwdriver's even too big. You have to use a very small jeweler's screwdriver, I think. You can either get under them, or you can try and split them apart. There it goes. Okay, now we're going to put that somewhere safe, very safe. And that should just lift off. We've got a hair or something in there by the look of it. A lovely curly hair, just what you want to find in your cassette player. And you can either, I think, just put a bit of light oil on there, which will probably do it. Oh well, the black colour might have been greased. I'll probably have to flick up that little plate. Where is it? That little tab there, just to get that back in. Now we're running nice and quiet. And I might even put a bit of oil on my finger, see if I can hold onto that little clip. Oily fingers sometimes the way to do it. And then you just push it back on, making sure it's gone back on. Yep, we've got that one. Where's the split in this one? Usually best to start, and you can push the reel down there, so that one doesn't really move, but this one pushes down, which makes it a bit easier. Again, being careful not to flick it across the room somewhere. Where's that split? Because as soon as you touch it, it moves. And we've got it. The other thing is, yeah, sometimes to put the screwdriver like that, if it comes up the right way. And that still looks a little wet under there. Pretty sure it's got some moist grease in there. Might just refresh some oil on there. Doesn't hurt to put a little bit of oil there just to lube it. Tends to help with rewind and fast forward and that sort of thing, and lift that little plate up again. And that's going to spin freely at the moment because it doesn't have the clip. And give me some more oil on my finger. Are we on? I can't see the little... No, it's not flicking on yet. Use your fingernail to get it. And that's back on. Beautiful. Lift the brake. Doesn't spin the absolute freest, but at least it's not noisy or anything. Doesn't have much mass, that one, so it's probably not going to spin the best. And we've got to put our counterbelt on, and we're done in here, I think. Maybe give the heads a clean, of course, even though they're not very dirty. And I've got a little bit of oil on that reel, so I better wipe that off before I even go near it with a counterbelt. Let's eject the mech. I should be able to poke it through there somewhere. I might use my hook. Make it easier. Go around that little pulley. Doesn't really matter which end you do first. Yeah, that's got some tension. Doesn't slip easily. So just on the little front bit there, that's basically the belt there. Just drop it over there. And I'll give that, while I've still got that cover out, I think we'll give everything a clean. And those heads are actually almost completely clean. Might have been a little bit of stuff on there. Never hurts to get your potential oily fingerprints and stuff off there. Clean that pinch roller. It's got a little bit of oxide, yeah, certainly some dark stuff coming off that. And with what's left of that cotton bud, I might just go over the reels where I had my oily fingers on the very end. And they probably want a bit of a clean anyway from the dust and muck. Those pins just go up inside the cassette to hold it still. What have we got here? We've got some gooey grease. So it looks like we might need to re-grease the eject lever. That's this little pointy looking thing here with a piece cut out of it. Don't know if that'll really come up on camera, but it's down in there. A lot of black goo coming off there, and that'll go onto this here little pin on the end here. And yeah, sure enough, that's definitely the eject. So it's probably designed to make it go in a bit smoother and all the rest. So a bit of light grease on that certainly won't hurt. Don't want too much because you don't really want that pin absolutely coated in grease. But we'll go over where it looks like the old grease was. Yeah, it gets a bit on that pin, but that's okay. It's about where it's not actually the lever doing that, it's where this whole piece kicks in. So that's, maybe that's a bit of a mass to help with the eject. It's not the smoothest operation, but I think that's how it's meant to work. Now what about there? It's actually a mark on it. Something's, the door or something's been pressing there. Probably want it to give that a quick clean while I've got it out. And we've had our fingers all over it. That should fit into those two steel pins that stick out that go into the holes in the bottom of the tape. They've got a couple of little slots in there for the aluminium to slot into. Is that how it works? Yeah, it just sits in the top of that, I think. These two little pieces that stick down go into the slot in those. If I can get it in there. Not easy working on it in this position really, but that's just, you can kind of hold it like that. Yeah, I'll get it eventually. There we go, one's in. There's the other one, and there we go. Finally slots in nicely in these two little clips at the top. I think we actually have to lift them up by hand. It's not going to push it on its own without risking bending it. And that's it, I think. Oh, I might give that a quick clean, that bit where the tape sits in. That's always a dust collector. And I haven't done the inside of the door yet. I can see there's something splattered on there. I don't know, it is still on the outside, I think. Yeah, it's got a few, looks like a liquid or something's been splattered on it. Oh well, we'll give it another test. Make sure it ejects with the tape in and everything. Tape sitting right. Fast forward. Rewind. Seems to work. I think that's a bit quieter than it was before. It's a little noisy in that. Some of that's just the gear noise. Let's reset our counter. At least we know that's running, because if that counter doesn't go, the optical sensor will eventually time out and stop the tape. It does a pretty good reproduction of the CD sound, that's for sure, so quite a good tape deck by the look of it. I don't think I really need to mess around. I guess we should maybe check the speed. It's about the only thing left. See how close it is to the proper speed. Looks like we have a slight difference on the meters there. So we might need to check a couple of things on this. I'm just checking on the frequency counter. It's ever so slightly high. Again, I've got to be careful of this mains voltage here. At least I'm using a plastic screwdriver. Can I find the adjustment? It's not going to go in, I don't think. There it is. Just dropped in. Oh no, it's still going down. Oops, we've hit the end of the tape, I think, because the frequency's gone crazy. That's around the correct speed. It was only ever so slightly out. I'm just using the frequency counter to do that. And the other thing here, like I said, the levels on the meter are not the best, so we need to find out whether that's an issue with the meter. Because there should be adjustments. We've got playback level right and left, record right and left. I don't think the meter's actually got an adjustment, or have we got them somewhere over here? Bias on the meter itself, maybe. Where's the meter? So it probably hasn't got meter adjustments. It's just got a couple of chips driving the fluorescent display. A lot of decks will give you meter adjustments, but probably with a digital fluorescent type meters you don't actually need them. It's more for analog meters, I think, which are probably more likely to be slightly different. So we're going to need a dual channel oscilloscope for this. So according to that, they're pretty close. Obviously got to make sure both your channels are set to the same input voltage, because it's easy to overlook something like that. That's the one that's higher, which is the left channel by the look of it. There we go. And you can just move the position so they exactly align. And now the meters are reading equal. So it's just slightly out. One's flicking just a little bit above the other. That's the right channel now. Just tweak it a little bit. Yeah, that's got everything perfect. Meters are perfect. They're pretty well aligned. So that should do the job. Yeah, not sure if they're meant to be just below zero or on zero, but we can make them actually sit on the zero there. One's flicking above occasionally. That's probably about where they should be. So they're looking good. I guess the only other thing to check is when we record, can we get it to basically play back at around the same level as we record at. So that's where you really want a signal generator. So that's where we hook both of the inputs together and just put them into a signal generator. Again, set around 1 kilohertz. Okay, let's start there. It doesn't really matter what level you record at, I don't think, as long as it comes out roughly what it goes in at. And both channels are about the same. So it's a little bit lower. Oh, that was probably me still messing around. Let's wait until I... Interesting, it's a little bit higher, which, to be honest, I don't actually mind if it's a bit higher. because usually you lose a bit on the tape, but we could actually tweak them down, but I think I might even leave them. Let's just turn them down ever so slightly. Might record over the same thing. I don't want a million bits of 1 kilohertz on this tape. Okay, that's the recording. Yeah, maybe just ever so slightly out, but this is an old tape, so you can see it's dropping in and out a little bit. Ideally I would use a nice new blank tape for this. Well, it seems to come up a bit lower on that tape, but at least it's not dropping out like the other one so much. So I think those things basically go. It wants a bit of a test and everything to make sure it's right. But that should get that one running. Not sure what I'll actually do with this one. I kind of like, again, that it's got the display. I'll give it a bit of a test and see what I think of it. And I might even get rid of this one, but I thought it'd be nice to get another one with a fluorescent display. Now that a few of these seem to be turning up around the place. And it wants a bit of a better clean. It's not going to come up mint, this one, I don't think. A little bit of a scratch, maybe that'll polish off. Buttons are a little dirty still. Bit of a ding there on the front panel and a scrape. So not exactly mint, quite dirty on top still. That needs a good clean. But they've got the record working again on it. And we know the belts are up to date, even though they were pretty good in it. So it's nice to have one that wasn't a belt repair for a change, because I'm getting a bit sick of doing those. I think there is another TIAC hi-fi unit like this somewhere, and I don't know if I'm going to be bothered making a video on that one, because I think I've done enough of them. It's probably similar to the other ones. But anyway, that's got that all up and running, so thanks for watching.